Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sue Juder, and I'm the marketing specialist here at Business Machine Technologies. I want to welcome all of you to the first episode in the second session of our Remote Works webinar series. Today, we'll review securing remote devices. Before we begin, I just want to provide some brief info on our Remote Works webinar series. Every Tuesday at 12:30, we're going to host a short webinar on a different topic. We will highlight capabilities within that topic that will assist with your work from home efforts. The different sessions will be tied to a series or theme. The first three revolves around communication collaboration. The next three, which kicks off with today's session, are tied to security. And finally, we will review strategy. And again, when you sign up for one webinar, you are automatically enrolled for those in the remainder of the series. So those who register for today's event, you don't have anything to do for the next couple of weeks. You will automatically be enrolled for the next two sessions. The best news, all these events are free and they are designed to assist with your work from home efforts. So we encourage you to register and attend as many as possible. Before I turn the deck over to my colleague Stu, I just want to remind everyone today's presentation will be recorded, and all those who register will receive a copy of the deck tomorrow. So with that, we will start today's presentation. I'm going to turn the deck over to Stu, and we will discuss securing remote devices.
Thank you, Sue. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everyone. We're glad you're with us today. If you have any questions during the presentation, please, you can use the chat feature to type that question in, and we'll answer those questions at the end. Again, we're going to just plan to spend just 15 minutes going through these items today, and then save some more time at the end for your questions. So today we're going to review the best way to connect remotely, the new threats to your network now that people are working from home, and technology to manage the increasing amount of remote equipment that looks to be deployed in the future. The cheapest way to configure remote access has always been to open a port in the firewall. You don't have to buy any VPN licensing, install and configure on remote PCs, but these open ports are a risk. We are partners with the New Jersey Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Cell. That's a mouthful, but it's shortened to NJCIC. Founded in 2015, it is tasked with leading and coordinating New Jersey's cybersecurity efforts. Since late 2017, NJCIC has observed a substantial increase in cyber incidents and threat intelligence reports involving the exploration of open ports commonly used for remote access. Using Shodan, a publicly available search engine for the Internet of Things, hackers can easily locate servers, systems, and devices with exposed remote access ports. After a target is identified, a malicious actor can use various tactics to reveal account login credentials or use brute force methods to gain entry into the network. Once inside, an intruder can map the network and identify the most sensitive systems from which they can steal data or otherwise exploit. They may install other types of malware designed to log keystrokes, create backdoors for later use, or steal system resources to mine cryptocurrency for personal profit. But the most common exploitation is to deploy ransomware. Hackers are no longer just encrypting the server and backups, but spreading through the network to infect as many PCs and computers as possible, which can severely disrupt an organization's operations until the affected data and systems are restored. So since 2018, we have made a big push to have our clients lock down remote access to their networks with a VPN or virtual private network. As with most anything security related, it increases complexity by adding another software to install and configure and another step in the process when connecting remotely. But this allows us to close those ports that hackers would try to leverage to make attacks on the network. But let's take a closer look at the VPN connection. Prior to COVID-19, it was almost entirely business-owned equipment that connected over the VPN. This equipment had remote management agents on it to ensure Windows critical updates are applied and that the antivirus software is kept up to date. Since the clients on the VPN tunnel had the same protection as the clients on the local area network, no restrictions were placed on the tunnel. You can think of it as a wide open pipe. In this configuration, remote clients had the most flexibility to print, map drives, connect to a remote desktop server, or their own PC because the VPN tunnel is unrestricted. Prior to the pandemic, most organizations typically had about 20% of their staff configured for remote access. With COVID-19, this has surged to 80 to 90% of staff working remotely. In some cases, only one person in the entire organization is going in to get the mail. Demand for laptops are at an all-time high. Companies looking to purchase laptops for remote staff were looking at 6-week delays in shipments. So with staff required to work from home and no business equipment to send them home with, what happened? Well, either staff were told to purchase an expense equipment from retail, or in many cases, staff's personal equipment has been configured to connect remotely. In both cases, there is no remote management agent on this equipment. Therefore, we don't know if the antivirus is up to date, if it even has antivirus. The same holds true for the Windows updates. Fortunately, any good VPN is going to limit the remote equipment's connection to the business network while it's connected. In essence, it makes it invisible to the other devices on the home network. But when that PC disconnects from the business network, it is now visible to all the other equipment. This other equipment is completely out of our control. We can't know how secure the spouse's computer is, the kids' devices are, how secure the Wi-Fi is. And if it isn't, then the neighbor's equipment can come into play too. So what do we do? The first thing we need to do is restrict the traffic that is allowed over the tunnel. The sonic wall firewalls we work with make it easy to see which rules apply. In this case, if we look at the traffic that is allowed from the VPN to the LAN, most likely the only rule, the default rule, is to allow any traffic to pass from the VPN to the LAN. That allows our clients the most functionality, right? To map drives, print, connect to servers, etc. Without getting too technical, we want to deny all traffic and only allow the traffic that we want. This will prevent worms, Trojans, and hackers from using the wide range of open ports, which actually go from 1 to 65,000 to their advantage. So what's the best way to connect? We're going to step through these options from least favorable to most. First is the VPN, then desktop to a server or PC. This most economical option in normal times, although it does require more time to set up per user. Remember, we need to lock down the VPN connection. And once this is done, you can start looking at a remote access service. The next step up is in using a remote access service to a PC. This provides a more secure connection as no direct connection is made to the office. They're interacting with the service. Staff interact with the desktop they normally use. Two-factor authentication is built into most of the services. The downside, though, here is the PC doesn't have an uninterruptible power supply on it, or UPS, and it's not protected if there's a blip in the power or a power outage, turning the office equipment off. And sometimes the staff can actually accidentally shut down the remote PC, thinking that they're turning their home PC off. And then when they try to connect back in remotely, they can't. Finally, using a remote access server to a remote access service to a remote desktop server. In this case, it runs on server class hardware protected by a UPS. You can publish a standardized desktop that has only the applications that you want your staff to use. And you can secure this connection with a remote access service such as Citrix Workspace. So let's take a look at the benefits of a remote access service. With a VPN, a hacker can attempt to overwhelm your firewall with a denial of service attack. They can point hundreds of PCs that they have control over at your firewall, all having them try to log in at the same time, right? And that just overwhelms it. And now nobody can connect. A remote access service protects against these attacks. It reduces your attack surface. You can configure your firewall to only allow connections from the service and deny all others. And the service is going to have anti-denial of service attack technology built in. Remote connections are proxied through the service, and additional sensors can detect if risky behavior is occurring. When it is, proactive automated action can be taken. One example would be automatically logging a user off and alerting IT. Any good service is going to have two-factor authentication. And we're going to discuss the importance of two-factor authentication next week. So if you're unfamiliar with that, I hope that you join us. And that's all the benefits that a remote access service brings to the table as opposed to just a pure VPN. Next up, we'll get into antivirus to patch against the new threats to your remote workforce and therefore your network. So we've established that the remote access service is the best way to connect, but I want to turn our attention back on the equipment that was deployed in response to COVID-19 work from home efforts. Even if this equipment is using a remote access service and your network is protected from it, your organization is now counting on this equipment to keep your staff productive. If they get infected with a virus or their hard drive fails, they're not going to be able to connect in to get their work done. So we recommend installing a management agent on any PC that is going to be used by your staff. I want to point out that this is not tracking software. Outside of when a computer is on and off, we can't monitor usage. The remote agent includes antivirus and patching and will alert you of potential problems with the PC before they happen, ensuring maximum productivity from your remote staff. We also want to point out that now more than ever, it's important to make sure your staff get their cybersecurity training refreshed. You better believe criminals are taking advantage of the uncertainty to lure your staff to click on links that they shouldn't. Just yesterday, the NJ KIC passed along an FBI flash briefing stating, through various investigation, the FBI continues to identify multiple COVID-19 email phishing campaigns with malicious file attachments and URLs. These attempts are exploiting fear derived from the COVID-19 pandemic to harvest user credentials and compromise targets' computer systems. So it's out there, it's happening. Beyond the phishing attempts, weak and poorly managed passwords are another threat, primarily controlled by your staff. And in next week's sessions, we'll also review how a password manager can help them secure their passwords and become more productive. Which brings us finally to mobile device management. As we shift towards a more remote workforce, having a service to manage all the remote equipment becomes key. A mobile device management, or MDM, solution is what you need. Unlike a remote management client that handles antivirus and Windows patches for your PCs, an MDM solution can be installed on all your devices. At BMT, we use Cisco Meraki Systems Manager, which costs about $3 per device per month. The solution provides cloud-based management for configuration, diagnostics, and monitoring of all the mobile devices in your organizations, from iPhones, iPads, Android phones and tablets, Macs and PCs. You can put this on everything. At its most basic level, you can use it for inventory and device tracking. But with Systems Manager, you can also provision settings just by enrolling a device in the service. This is really powerful, and as an IT professional, I really love this technology. For example, when a device is enrolled, you can have it automatically configured for your email. You can have the company's wireless network settings automatically configured. If you happen to have multiple sites, and all the site's Wi-Fi can be pushed to the device so that whenever the person that uses this device goes to any one of your sites, they'll connect to the Wi-Fi at that site automatically. You can have the apps used by your business automatically installed. The business policies for screen timeout, to lock the device, and the PIN type and length also can get pushed out. With geofencing, you can have a more relaxed policy when the device is at the office and a more restrictive one when it's not. You can further secure VPN connections with a certificate. With the use of certificates, it doesn't matter if a hacker steals an employee's username and password. If they don't have a device with your certificate installed on it, they can't connect. You are ensured that only equipment you deploy can connect back to your network. And with MDM, all this is as simple as just enrolling that device. What would normally take IT 30 to 60 minutes to configure each device can be done in minutes. Finally, you can remote wipe an entire device or selectively just the business apps and data. And this is key in establishing a bring your own device policy for your workforce. With it, you can assure your staff that it is your policy to only wipe company data and not their personal data if either of you choose to part ways. So for summary, for remote access, right, we want to close all the ports in the firewall if you still have them open. I hope nobody's in that position. Lock down your VPN connection to provide additional security, and take a look at using a remote access service for the best-in-class security and availability. To secure remote devices, install a management agent with antivirus, patching, and alerting functions. Refresh the cybersecurity training for your staff. And another thing to consider is all your remote workers are counting on the connection back to your office. If you don't have a backup connection to your office internet connection, you should look to get one. If that primary one fails, no one's going to be working now. And finally, look to a mobile device management service because it's going to improve the control you have over your remotely deployed equipment and increase the efficiency when deploying and supporting this equipment. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Stu. So just a reminder, next week we continue with our security series. We'll be discussing cloud security, and then the following week, May 19th, we will review the Perch Security platform. Again, at the same time, same place. Those who are registered for today's event, you have nothing to do. You will automatically be enrolled in next week's event and also the event on the 19th. So we look forward to seeing you next week. With that, Stu, I believe we'll open our Q&A session. You can utilize the chat button in the bottom center of your screen. We do have a couple questions in the queue, but please feel free if you have any questions just to type it in and we will answer. So Stu, let's review the ones we have in the queue. The first, my organization only has 10 people. Am I really at risk for an attack?
Right. Yeah, I hear this a lot. You may be thinking, who's going to hack into your small business, right? There's only 5 of you. You've got a small office. Your website's just a brochure for the services that you offer. Well, hackers aren't necessarily looking for your business. They're just looking for open ports. Remember, we talked about that Shodan website where they're able to find open ports on the internet. So they just keep trying at them, and once they come across one with a weak username and password, or they've got someone credentials, they're in. Once they get in, they can do reconnaissance. Actually, they do reconnaissance to see how valuable a target you are. Hackers now are like any other business. They set their ransomware fee at the right level, right? They kind of see that you're only a 10-user network and that you can't afford a big sum. So they try to set it at the right spot so you can afford it and pay them. So no, they're not necessarily looking for your small business. They're looking for anyone. And like any business, they're not going to turn away money. If they find you and it's only 10, they're not moving on. They're just going to collect a lower amount. If they happen to get a big network, well, they've hit payday, so they're happy about that. But they're not ignoring the small clients.
Great. So one other question in the queue. I'd like to get started, but how do I prioritize?
Right. Well, I want to point out that, none of these solutions are terribly expensive. We partner with KnowBe4 for security training. You can get that for about $1 a person per month. Our own remote management agent includes antivirus, patch management, and a remote access service, all for only $5 per PC per month. If you add, let's see, mobile device management, and you're going to get everything that I just mentioned, I guess, for less than $10 a month. Initially, we talked about locking down the VPN tunnel. That's really only about 4 hours of engineering services. So, I mean, to rank them in importance, I'd have to encourage the call or the person to ask the question to reach out through email or give us a call so that we can talk through their current situation and advise based on what's currently in play.
Okay, thank you. So
Oh,
that's
and I see another question. Someone's asking if we do white hat testing on firewalls. And no, that's not a specific service that we offer, and it's actually something that's very expensive because you're paying for a cybersecurity specialist, a very high level person to carry out that kind of attack. But later in the series, actually, the Perch service is a managed threat detection and response service. And we used to advise our clients to have a vulnerability service run kind of an automated script against their firewall to see what was open. And now with Perch, we're real excited about that product. And it does a lot more. It kind of does this real-time testing of your entire network, and we'll let you know when it sees threats and vulnerabilities and advise you of them immediately. So we can take that question offline, but I hope everybody joins us for that in 2 weeks.
great. Great. Any other questions?
No, I don't see any more. Looks like somebody had a problem with audio. I'm sorry to hear that, but I think everyone else it worked out for. We will, as Sue mentioned, we're recording this, so we will send out a link to it so you can watch it.
Yes, you will be receiving an email tomorrow with a copy of the recorded deck. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and we look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Be safe.